My parents used me like an ATM, believed my sister's lie, banned me from the family party, so I gave them the ending they never saw coming. I'm 32, male, working in tech in Seattle. My job's good. Steady pay, benefits, all that. I don't flaunt it, but I'm comfortable. Because I'm comfortable, I've always thought, why not help my family out when they need it? I mean, we're family, right? You're supposed to have each other's backs. So over the years, I've been the guy who covers stuff. My parents need help with house repairs? I'm on it. Vanessa, my younger sister needs money for her wedding? Sure, I can chip in. It's not like I minded at first. It felt good to know I was making life a little easier for them. But then there's Vanessa. Vanessa, 26, female, is married to Matt, who's basically just her echo chamber. She's working on some kind of psychology degree. Don't get me wrong, she's smart, but she's also the type of person who's really good at getting people to do what she wants. She's been my parents' golden child from day one. She's bubbly, charming, and always knows what to say to make people like her. Because of that, she's never had to take responsibility for anything. Growing up, it was pretty obvious who the favorite was. Vanessa always got the new clothes, the best toys, and the attention. Me, I was the older kid, the responsible one. My parents just assumed I didn't need as much and I didn't complain. I worked part-time jobs through high school and college, saved my money, and stayed out of trouble. That was my role in the family. The quiet one who didn't ask for much. Vanessa though knew how to get what she wanted. When she turned 16, my parents said she needed a car, not wanted needed. They didn't have the money to get her anything decent, so guess what? They asked me to chip in for my savings. I'd been working part-time at a hardware store saving up for college, but my parents thought it'd be nice if I helped Vanessa out. I gave in. It wasn't like I had much of a choice, not when my mom was giving me her family should support each other speech. Vanessa got her car, a used sedan that wasn't fancy, but she loved it and I moved on. Then when it came time for her to go to college, she got into some fancy private school out of state. My parents couldn't afford it, so they asked me to help. This time, I was supposed to delay grad school so they could put money toward Vanessa's tuition. I pushed back. But again, the whole family support speech came out. Vanessa, of course, played her part perfectly, saying things like, I just want to make something of myself. And Dean, I promise I'll make it up to you someday. By the time Vanessa got married a few years later, I'd gotten used to the pattern. She wanted her dream wedding and my parents couldn't afford all the extras, so they came to me. Dean, it's just a little bit for the flowers, they said. You don't want your sister to be disappointed on her big day, do you? I don't know why I kept agreeing to this stuff. Maybe it was guilt or maybe I just didn't want to deal with the drama. Either way, I always stepped up. Over the years, I became the go-to guy for everything. Vanessa and my parents didn't even have to ask most of the time. They just assumed I'd help. Honestly, I didn't mind, at least not at first. I told myself it was fine because I was doing okay. I had a good job and the money wasn't putting me in a bad spot. Plus, helping them out kept the peace. I figured as long as I wasn't struggling, why not? It's family. Still, no matter what I did, it was never enough for them. I've hit every mark I could as a successful adult. Steady job, nice place to live, no debt. But it's like none of that matters because I don't fit their picture of what my life should look like. No wife, no kids, no perfectly staged holiday cards. My parents love to drop subtle digs about how they're still hoping for grandkids or how it's not too late to settle down. Meanwhile, Vanessa could show up at Thanksgiving with her life in shambles, and they'd still be proud of her just for existing. It's like I'm only valuable when I'm making their lives easier, but when it comes to who I am, I'll never measure up. It's exhausting. The more I helped, the more they expected. It stopped being about whether I could afford to help and started being about whether I should. If I ever hesitated or said no, it turned into a guilt trip. Dean, don't you care about your family? Dean, you're doing so well. Why can't you just help out? It got to the point where I wasn't even being asked, I was being told. Vanessa never showed any gratitude. If anything, she acted like she was entitled to my help, like it was my job to make her life easier. She's always been good at spinning things, making herself look like the victim if I ever pushed back or tried to set a boundary. She'd turn it into a sob story about how hard her life was. My parents would eat it up and I'd end up being the bad guy. It all came to a head this year. Looking back, I can't believe it took me so long to realize how bad things had gotten. I was so used to being the guy who kept everything running smoothly that I didn't notice how much I was being taken advantage of. But Vanessa finally went too far, and once she did, there was no coming back from it. About a week before Christmas, I got a call from my mom. At first, I didn't think much of it. Mom calling before the holidays was normal, and I figured it'd be something about Christmas dinner or maybe some small family drama. But as soon as I picked up, I could tell something was off. Her voice had that overly sweet tone she used when she was about to say something I wouldn't like. Hi, honey. She started. How are you? I told her I was fine and we exchanged the usual small talk for a minute or two. Then she dropped it. Listen, Dean, we've been thinking. Maybe it's best if you don't come to Christmas this year. At first, I thought I misheard her. Wait, what? I asked. Why wouldn't I come to Christmas? Well, she said, dragging out the word like she was trying to soften the blow. Vanessa mentioned some things you've said recently and we just don't want any negativity ruining the day. Negativity? I repeated. What are you talking about? What did Vanessa say? Mom hesitated for a second, like she wasn't sure if she should tell me. Then she sighed and said, she told us you've been saying some pretty hurtful things about Christmas. That you hate spending money on gifts for the family and think our Christmases are a waste of time because they're all about her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? I said, my voice rising a little. I never said anything like that. Well, she said, sounding unsure. Vanessa seemed pretty upset about it. She said, you've been talking to people about how much you don't like our Christmases and how you don't think they're worth your time. I was stunned. Not only was this a blatant lie, but the fact that my mom believed Vanessa without even asking me about it hurt more than I expected. It wasn't the first time Vanessa had twisted things to make herself look good and me look bad, but this felt like a new low. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I don't know what Vanessa told you, but I never said anything like that. In fact, I've been planning what to get you and Dad for Christmas for weeks. Well, she said again. In that way, she does when she doesn't want to argue. We just think it's better if you sit this one out. You've seemed a little distant lately and we don't want any tension during the holidays. At that point, I realized there was no point in arguing. My mom had already made up her mind and nothing I said was going to change it. Fine, I said, keeping my tone short. If that's what you want. She sounded surprised that I wasn't fighting her on it. It's not about what we want, honey. We just think it's for the best. Sure. I said, not bothering to hide the sarcasm. Merry Christmas, Mom. Then I hung up. I sat there for a minute just staring at my phone. I wasn't even angry, just tired. Tired of always being the one who had to explain himself. The one who had to defend himself against Vanessa's lies. It was like no matter what I did, I was always the bad guy in her story. The next day, I got a call from Vanessa. At first, I didn't even want to answer. I figured she'd probably call to gloat about how she'd gotten me uninvited, but a part of me was curious, so I picked up. Hey, Dean, she said, her voice as cheerful as ever, like nothing had happened. What do you want, Vanessa? I said, not bothering to pretend I was happy to hear from her. She didn't even acknowledge my tone. So listen, I need a little help, she said. My grad school tuition is due soon and Mom and Dad can't really afford to help much right now. I was hoping you could pitch in. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? I said, you just got me uninvited to Christmas, and now you're asking me for money? There was a pause, like she hadn't expected me to bring that up. Oh, come on, Dean, she said finally, her tone light and dismissive. That's not what this is about. Christmas is one thing, but this is important. It's my education. I could feel my blood boiling, but I forced myself to stay calm. Vanessa, do you even hear yourself? You lied to Mom and Dad about me, got me kicked out of Christmas, and now you want me to pay for your tuition. Do you even care how messed up that sounds? She sighed, like I was the one being difficult. Dean, don't be so dramatic. Mom and Dad just wanted a peaceful Christmas, and you've been kind of negative lately. Besides, this isn't about Christmas. It's about helping your family. There it was, the guilt trip. Vanessa had perfected it over the years. Whenever she wanted something, she'd play the family card, like it was my job to fix all her problems just because we shared DNA. I'll think about it, I said, cutting her off before she could go any further. She seemed satisfied with that. Great. Thanks, Dean. I knew I could count on you. After she hung up, I sat there for a while just staring at my phone. The audacity was mind-blowing. Not only had Vanessa managed to turn my own family against me, but now she had the nerve to ask me for money like nothing had happened. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about Christmas or tuition. This was about years of being taken for granted. Years of being expected to step up and help while Vanessa coasted through life with a smile and a sob story. I wasn't going to let it slide this time. The day after Vanessa called, I called my mom and told her we needed a family meeting. Me, you, Dad, Vanessa, and Matt, I said. We're sitting down tomorrow and we're talking about this. Mom hesitated like she always does when she thinks I'm about to disrupt the balance Vanessa's got her wrapped around. Dean, is this really necessary? I interrupted. I just got kicked out of Christmas because of something Vanessa said that isn't even true. We're going to talk about it. After a pause, she reluctantly agreed. Fine. Tomorrow at 6. But Dean, please don't make this a big thing. Christmas is coming, and I don't want any stress in the air. I hung up without responding. If my own family didn't want me there for Christmas, I didn't see the point in pretending everything was fine. The next evening, I pulled up to my parents' house. It was the same place I'd grown up, but over the years it had started to feel less like home and more like a place I was tolerated in. I didn't bother dressing up, just jeans and a hoodie. This wasn't about impressing anyone. When I walked in, Vanessa and Matt were already there. Matt gave me his usual awkward nod, the kind that said, "I don't want to be involved in this." Vanessa didn't even look up from her phone. Typical. Mom came out of the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee and cookies like this was some kind of festive get-together. "Hi, Dean," she said, forcing a smile. "We were just getting settled." "Great," I said, not bothering to fake any pleasantry. "Let's get started." Dad was in his recliner, arms crossed, watching me like I was the problem. I ignored him and took a seat across from Vanessa. She finally looked up, her face a mix of fake innocence and mild annoyance. "So," Mom said after a moment of awkward silence, "what did you want to talk about, Dean?" I didn't waste time. "This is about Christmas and the fact that I wasn't invited because of something Vanessa said that's completely untrue." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Oh my God. Are you still on that?" she said, her tone dripping with annoyance. "I didn't lie. That's what you said, or at least how it came across." "Really?" I said, pulling out my phone. "Because I have the text to prove otherwise." Her smug expression faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered. "Texts?" "Yeah," I said, scrolling through my messages. "Remember when I asked you what I should get Mom and Dad for Christmas?" This was 2 weeks ago. I opened the conversation and handed my phone to my mom. "Here's me asking Vanessa for gift ideas," I said. And I quote, "I don't care about the cost. I just want to get them something meaningful." Mom's face softened as she read the message. But before she could say anything, I continued. "And here's Vanessa's response." I pointed to the next message. "Why waste money on gifts they don't even appreciate half the time?" I let that sink in for a moment before adding, "So tell me again, Vanessa, how I'm the one who hates Christmas and doesn't want to spend money on gifts?" The room went dead silent. Mom looked up at Vanessa, her expression confused. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat like he didn't know how to process what he was hearing. Vanessa, on the other hand, doubled down. "Oh, come on," she said, crossing her arms. "You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." "I didn't mean it like that." "Didn't mean it like what?" I shot back. "You told Mom and Dad lies about me. Meanwhile, you're the one complaining about how much gifts cost and saying they don't appreciate it anyway." She glared at me, but I could see the cracks in her confidence. "It's not a big deal, Dean. You're overreacting." I turned to my mom. "Am I overreacting?" "Because you believed her without even asking me about it. You kicked me out of Christmas based on her word alone." Mom opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She looked at Dad, probably hoping he'd back her up, but he just sat there, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Vanessa wasn't done yet. She shifted in her seat, her arms crossed, but there was a calculated look in her eyes now. I'd seen it 100 times before. It was the look she gave right before turning everything around to make herself the victim. "Okay, fine," Vanessa said, throwing her hands up. "Yes. I said that. But do you want to know why? Because I've been under so much pressure lately, and it's been really hard to keep up with everything. I'm barely holding it together as it is, and now you're dragging me through the mud in front of everyone just to make yourself look better." Mom's face softened immediately, and I could see Dad's scowl deepen. "Vanessa," Mom said gently. "What do you mean, honey? What's been so hard?" Vanessa sniffed dramatically as if she were on the verge of tears. "Grad school for one thing," she said, her voice wavering just enough to sell it. "And you know, Matt and I are still trying to pay off the wedding. Plus, everything is so expensive now. Groceries, rent, everything. It's not like I have someone swooping in to save the day for me. I'm doing the best I can." She glanced at me as she said that last part, like I was the one who'd somehow failed her. I rolled my eyes. "You've got to be kidding me, Vanessa. You literally asked me for thousands of dollars yesterday. You don't get to play the I have no support card when you've been leaning on me and Mom and Dad for years." "That was the wrong thing to say, Dean," Mom snapped, her voice sharp for the first time all night. "There's no need to be so cruel. She's clearly struggling." "Cruel?" I said, incredulous. "Mom, she lied about me to get me kicked out of Christmas. And now she's turning this whole thing into a pity party because she doesn't want to take responsibility." Vanessa shook her head, her expression a perfect mix of hurt and frustration. "You don't get it, Dean," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "You've never had to worry about this stuff. You've always had a good job, plenty of money, no one depending on you. It's easy for you to sit there and judge me, but you don't know what it's like to actually struggle." That hit a nerve. I leaned forward, my hands clenched into fists on my knees. "Are you serious right now, Vanessa? I've been working since I was 16. I paid for my own college. I've helped Mom and Dad with bills, and I've bailed you out more times than I can count. Don't sit there and act like I've had it easy just because I don't complain about every little thing. Dean. Enough. Dad barked, his voice loud enough to make everyone jump. You've made your point. There's no need to keep piling on. Piling on? I said, my voice rising. Dad, she's the one who lied about me. She's the one who caused this whole mess, but somehow I'm the bad guy for calling her out. Yes, you are, Mom said, her tone firm but laced with disappointment. Because instead of trying to understand where Vanessa is coming from, you've spent this whole time attacking her. She's clearly not in a good place right now, and instead of helping her, you're just making things worse. I stared at her stunned. So let me get this straight. Somehow I'm the one in the wrong? Are you even hearing yourselves right now? Mom crossed her arms, her face stern. We're hearing you just fine, Dean, but what we're also hearing is that you don't seem to care about what Vanessa's going through. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you serious? I've been supporting this family for years, and this is how you repay me? Dad shook his head, his expression a mix of frustration and disappointment. This isn't about repayment, Dean. It's about doing the right thing. Vanessa's your sister, and she's clearly going through a tough time. Instead of embarrassing her like this, you should be helping her. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Helping her? That's all I've ever done. But every time I try to set a boundary, every time I say no, I'm suddenly the villain. Do you even realize how exhausting that is? Dean, Mom said, her voice softening again, you've always been the dependable one, the strong one. We didn't think you minded helping out. Well, I do mind, I said firmly, and I'm done. At that, Matt finally spoke up. Maybe we should all just calm down, he said quietly, like he didn't want to upset anyone. No, I said firmly, cutting him off. We're not calming down. This is the problem. Every time I try to stand up for myself, I'm told to calm down or let it go. Meanwhile, Vanessa gets to lie, manipulate, and take whatever she wants without any consequences. Mom tried to step in, her voice wavering. Dean, we didn't mean to make you feel this way. We just wanted to keep the peace. By throwing me under the bus, I interrupted. That's not keeping the peace. That's choosing sides, and it's pretty obvious whose side you're always on. Vanessa looked like she was about to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. Here's what's going to happen, I said, keeping my voice steady. If you really think I should pay for Vanessa's tuition, disregarding her disrespect and lies all these years, fine. I'll do it. But just so you know, the moment I make the payment, I'm done. No more money, no more favors, no more holidays. I'm out. Call it a last favor if you want, and this time I mean it. It's the last one. The room was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Vanessa's mouth fell open in shock. Mom looked like she was about to cry. Dad just stared at me, his face unreadable. You can either keep treating me like the family ATM, I continued, or you can start treating me like a person. But if you choose the first option, don't expect me to stick around. Without waiting for a response, I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Let me know what you decide, I said over my shoulder. And with that, I left. After I walked out of that meeting, I didn't hear from anyone the rest of the night. No calls, no texts, just silence. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. That's how it always went when I tried to stand up for myself. They'd let things sit for a bit, hoping I'd either cave or come crawling back to make peace, but not this time. At first, I thought maybe they were finally taking me seriously. Maybe Mom and Dad realized how messed up this whole situation was. Maybe they'd come back to apologize and try to make it up. The next morning, I woke up feeling strangely calm, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For once, I'd said exactly what needed to be said, and I didn't hold back. No more sugarcoating, no more trying to spare their feelings while mine got stomped on. It felt good. I knew they wouldn't let this go quietly, especially Vanessa. She hated losing control over any situation, and I'd completely turned the tables on her at that meeting. I figured it was only a matter of time before someone reached out to try and fix things or guilt me into backing down. Sure enough, late that evening, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. Dean, can we talk before Christmas, please? It's important. I stared at the screen for a minute, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but I also knew avoiding the conversation wouldn't fix anything. So I called her back. Hi, Mom, I said, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. What's going on? Hi, honey, she replied, sounding almost nervous. I wanted to make sure you're okay. This has been a really difficult time for everyone, and I just feel like we've all been hurt by what happened. Hurt. That was rich, considering I'd been the one lied about, excluded, and then guilted into paying Vanessa's tuition. But I held my tongue. I'm fine, I said shortly. Is that all? Well, she continued hesitantly. I was hoping we could all put this behind us. It's Christmas after all. Don't you think we should focus on moving forward instead of dwelling on what happened? There it was. The classic, let's sweep this under the rug approach. I'd seen it too many times before. Mom, I said, my tone firm but not angry. This isn't about dwelling on the past. It's about setting boundaries, and you never do that with Vanessa. I've made my decision and I'm sticking to it. I'm not going to keep being the person everyone leans on without any respect or consideration in return. She sighed heavily, and for a moment I thought she might start crying. Dean, I understand that you're upset. I'm not upset, I interrupted. I'm just done. There's a difference. There was a long pause before she spoke again, and when she did, her tone had shifted. It was softer, more resigned. If that's really how you feel, then we've talked about it and we'll respect your decision. I blinked, caught slightly off guard. You will? Yes, she said, though there was a strain in her voice. We don't want to lose you, Dean. If helping Vanessa with her tuition is your way of stepping back, we'll accept that. But it's just hard. You've always been such a big part of this family. I almost laughed at the irony. A big part? I repeated. You mean the part that pays for everything while getting nothing in return? That's not fair, she said quickly, her voice breaking a little. We've always appreciated everything you've done for us. Maybe we just didn't say it enough. No, you didn't, I said bluntly. And that's the problem. It's not about the money, Mom. It's about the fact that you all took me for granted. Vanessa lied about me, and instead of giving me the benefit of the doubt, you believed her without question. Do you have any idea how that felt? She didn't respond right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Dean. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I appreciate that, Mom, but an apology doesn't change what's been happening for years. I'm not going to keep putting myself in a position where I'm disrespected and used. That's why I'm stepping back. There was another long silence, and I could almost picture her sitting at the kitchen table trying to find the right words. I just wish things could go back to the way they used to be, she said finally. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. So do I, but that's not going to happen unless things change. And honestly, I don't think Vanessa's capable of changing. She's been this way her whole life because you and Dad let her get away with it. That's not fair, she said again, though her tone was weaker this time. We've tried to do what's best for both of you. No. You've done what's best for Vanessa, I corrected. And I let it happen because I didn't want to rock the boat, but I'm done doing that. For a moment, I thought she might argue again, but instead, she let out a shaky sigh. Okay, Dean, if this is really what you want, we'll respect your decision. Good, I said simply. I'm sending the payment to Vanessa's school. She should have the receipt in her email. After this, I'm stepping back, like I said. Thank you, she said quietly. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we do appreciate what you've done. I hope you won't cut us out completely. I'm not cutting anyone out, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was entirely true. I'm just setting boundaries. If you can respect that, we'll be fine. She didn't respond right away, but eventually she said, Okay. Merry Christmas, Dean. Merry Christmas, Mom, I replied before hanging up. After the call, I wired the money to Vanessa's school and sent her the receipt. Short and to the point. No explanations, no pleasantries, just the facts. It felt strange, almost surreal to finally put that boundary in place. For years, I'd been bending over backward for my family, thinking it was my duty to keep everyone happy. But now for the first time, I'd stood my ground and they actually listened. A part of me wanted them to do something for my sake, to stand up just once for me against Vanessa, but they didn't even try. They were fine with letting me go as long as I paid her fees. I wasn't naive enough to think it would be the end of it. Vanessa wasn't the type to let go of her safety net without a fight, and I knew my parents would struggle with a new dynamic. But for the first time in years, I felt like I had control over my own life. The rest of the day, I went about my business, finishing up some work and making plans with friends for Christmas Eve. That night, as I sat on my couch with a cup of coffee, I thought about what Mom had said earlier. It's sad to see the family fall apart. Maybe she was right in a way, but it wasn't my fault. The cracks had been there for years and I'd just been the one trying to hold everything together. Now, I wasn't holding anything. I was letting it go. Christmas came and went, and for the first time in years, it was quiet. No frantic phone calls about last-minute gifts, no guilt-laden texts about how I wasn't doing enough for the family, and best of all, no Vanessa drama. It felt strange at first, like I'd suddenly stepped out of a role I'd been playing my whole life, but it also felt peaceful. I spent Christmas Eve with a few friends, just a small get-together with some good food and laughs. It wasn't extravagant, but it was nice to be around people who actually appreciated my presence without expecting anything from me. On Christmas Day, I stayed home, slept in, and treated myself to a lazy morning. No rushing around, no awkward family interactions, just me doing whatever I wanted. Then I started to realize just how much space my family had been taking up in my life. I don't just mean physically or financially, I mean mentally. I'd spent years juggling their expectations, their problems, and their constant need for me to step up. Without all of that hanging over me, I suddenly had time and energy for myself. But while I was moving on and enjoying the space I'd created, it was clear my family wasn't handling it as well. The first sign came the day after Christmas when my mom called. I almost didn't pick up, but eventually I did. "Hi, Dean," she said, her voice a little too cheerful. "How was your Christmas?" "It was good," I replied simply. "How was yours?" There was a pause and then she said, "It was nice. Quiet though. We missed you." I didn't bite. "I'm sure it was fine." I said, "Is there something you needed?" "Well," she said, dragging out the word like she was trying to ease into the real reason for her call. "I just wanted to check in and see how you're feeling. I know things have been a little tense lately." I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. Is there something specific you wanted to talk about? Because otherwise, you can't just randomly call me. We're done." She hesitated again then sighed. "I guess I just miss you. The house felt so empty this year without you here." There it was, the guilt trip. But this time it didn't hit me the way it used to. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said calmly, "but I think it's good for us to have some space right now. It's been a long time coming." She didn't argue, which surprised me. Instead she said, "Well, I hope you'll come around eventually. You know we need you in our lives. You've been so helpful." "Thanks," I said, keeping my tone polite but firm. "I appreciate that. I just hope you'd appreciated my help." We ended the call on a cordial note, but it was clear she wasn't ready to fully accept the new dynamic. Then came Vanessa. She didn't call or text right away, which was surprising. I figured she'd be the first to reach out, either to try and guilt me into helping her with something else or to spin the situation in her favor. But when her email finally came through, it wasn't what I expected. It was long, way too long, honestly, and full of flowery language about how sorry she was for the misunderstanding. She talked about how much she appreciated everything I'd done for her over the years, and how she hoped we could move past this and rebuild our bond. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to call her out for the obvious manipulation. The other part of me just wanted to ignore it altogether. In the end, I decided not to respond at all. It wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about protecting my peace. This email was just another attempt to keep me on the hook, and I wasn't falling for it. Mom and Dad are now sending me random texts asking about things they'd never cared about before. How my job was going, if I needed anything, stuff like that. It was obvious they were feeling the gap I'd left. They'd gotten so used to me being the one who fixed everything. And now that I wasn't there, they didn't know what to do. Vanessa especially seemed to be struggling. A mutual friend told me she's complaining about how she's going to be struggling without leaning on me. Hearing that didn't make me feel good exactly, but it did reinforce that I'd made the right decision. For years, I'd been the one propping up my family, and they'd never appreciated it. Now they were finally realizing what it meant to not have me around. As for me, life feels lighter. I'm not constantly checking my phone, dreading the next request or demand. I'm living for myself instead of for everyone else. Do I miss them? Not in the way you'd think. I don't miss the chaos or the drama or the constant pressure to be the responsible one. What I miss is the idea of having a family that genuinely supports and respects each other. But I've come to accept that the family I have is incapable of that, and that's okay. Setting boundaries wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted myself. But looking back, I know it was the right thing to do. I'm no longer the family ATM, the scapegoat, or the problem solver. I'm just Dean. That feels like enough.